Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your girl Diamond. I am the executive director of No, I am the executive director of Black Trans Women Inc. and the host of Marsha's Play podcast. And we're gonna talk about how crazy the internet is, particularly around gender and stuff like that. I didn't go live last Friday because I was in Hawaii having a good ass time and the internet was slow, so I couldn't go live. But let's talk about this. I think this is an interesting conversation. How is everybody doing? Hey, Amara, how are you? We're going to talk about young MA and these rumors about her pregnancy. I don't think she's pregnant. I think this is just a funny moment happening on Twitter. But the response to it is quite interesting and quite quite interesting. And just when it comes to gender and that kind of stuff, people can be kind of weird. So I kind of wanted to talk about it and just explore it. And so, yeah, how is everybody doing? Hey, Will. Oh, you missed me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Brandon, how are you? Because I was like, oh, is she? No, I don't think she's pregnant. I think this is just the internet being the internet. You know how they just take a funny rumor and then make it go viral just to be, with the jokes about it. Do 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 do. Ah. I went out to eat a few like about 2 hours ago, and I was sitting next to somebody, a girl and a guy that were on a first date, and their date was going so cute. They were going like they both were cute. They were both of the guy was handsome, the girl was so cute, and they had nice bodies, and they were having great conversation, and each one of them was telling jokes, and their jokes was landing, and both of them was lying, not lying, both of them was laughing. And when each one of them tell the jokes weren't awkward and weird. They both were just in sync, and I just sitting back watching it as I was eating alone, eating my dinner alone by myself because I'm a sad, lonely, single trans woman. No, I'm not. Uh, I'm watching them and I'm like, oh my God, this is so romantic. This is so romantic. They're really connecting and having a great date, like telling each other stuff and introducing each other's ideas, and it just watching it play out in my face while I'm sitting there eating my meal was such a blessing for me because it made me feel like, ooh, I wish I could be on a first date and it goes so well. I haven't had really any bad dates. Most of the dates that I've been on, I don't go on a lot of dates, but most of the dates that I've been on, they have been pretty good. Like the ones that I actually go on, they've been pretty good. And so I haven't been on a good one in a minute. But seeing this was like, oh, this is so cute. Oh, well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, if you're ever in Houston, we can go and have fun and eat dinner. I thought it was so cute to see them connecting with each other, laughing and making jokes and being it didn't feel like either one of them were being pretentious or arrogant or egotistical. The conversation was balanced. One wasn't talking more than the other. They were just it was just playing off each other, just back and forth. It was just so beautiful. She'll say something, he'll say something, and it just go back and forth. They were talking about food that they like and in certain um, st- restaurants that one of them had been to and one of them had not. And Yeah, it was just so beautiful to see unfold while I'm sitting there eating my dinner. It was so cute. I love first dates. Have y'all been on good first dates? Have y'all I know everybody's been on bad dates. But have y'all had some really great first dates where even if it doesn't work out in the long term, the experience was so good that you like, oh, this was a good experience. Even if it didn't work out, like y'all didn't continue to date or continue to y'all found out that y'all wasn't, because that's what dating is about. Dating is trying to find out if you work with the person. And sometimes, even though y'all have chemistry, y'all don't work well in a relationship. So it doesn't work out. But I think a great date is one that even if it doesn't work out, it's a fond memory that you have. It's like, oh, I remember that date. It was so nice. I really like it. Because I remember most of the good dates that I've had, I remember them. And I remember the person, I remember the guy, and I have fond memories of him and I even if it didn't work out, it feel great. You are trolling with this title. No, that's the truth. No, don't try me, Brandy. You know I don't be trolling with titles. Let me show you. So on Twitter right now, Young Ma is there. She's trending. I keep saying Young Ma, Young MA. One of the trending topics is she's she's pregnant. That's the not that I don't think she really is, but they're doing a thing talking about her being pregnant, Young M.A. And then so like this is the tweet. It says Nick Cannon finding out that Young M.A. is pregnant and he's not the father. And then this one says Young M.A. preggers, it's time to bring this back. It's so much good. It's so much good jokes. It's so many good jokes about it, but it's also revealing some crazy, weird jokes too. But I don't think it's real, Brittany. I don't think she's really pregnant. I think Twitter is just doing what Twitter does. There's a rumor happens and then they just go. Pregnant studs is the look though. Is it? Hey, Tyler Brooks, how are you? Is that a look? I'm always gagged when people find out, like when studs get pregnant and people find out about it and they like, how you get pregnant? I thought you was a lesbian. And I'm like, y'all have no nuance in your mindset. Like y'all have no, like there are some studs that like dick. There are some bisexual people. Just because they present as masculine doesn't mean they don't get dick. It doesn't mean that they're not bisexual. Sometimes, and also understand that bisexuality isn't just I like men and I like women equally. Sometimes it's I like mostly women, but I play around with dudes sometimes. Sometimes it's I like mostly dudes, but I play around with a girl that I find attractive. It's very sometimes it's not sometimes it's like 90% of the time I like fucking with dick. But 10% of the time I'll fuck with some coochie. That is, or it could be 60, 40. It could be 75, 25. It is so many, it's so many ways that people's sexuality can manifest. And it's not just based on how they look. Yo, like it's so crazy. So I know studs who mostly date women, mostly, but sometimes they'll fuck around with their homeboy because they like dick. And sometimes, it'll be their butch queen homeboy, it'll be their hood nigga homeboy that they comfortable with. He got some good dick. Set the pussy out. That's just how it is. I'm like, I don't understand why people be so. And honey, if you put a dick in some vagina and ain't no protection or no birth control, guess what can happen? Babies. Babies can be made. Because when you're using the equipment that can create babies, regardless of masculine or feminine presentation, babies can be made. So every time y'all act like, and then just because I am with women, if I'm a stud, just because I'm predominantly with women and I hook up with a dude doesn't mean that I'm not into women anymore or that I'll be into this dude. I like this dude. I like this dude. That's why I gave him some of my cooter cat because he's the one that I like. That don't mean I like you. And that don't mean I stop liking women predominantly. That don't mean that you can get the pussy just because I gave it to this 1-2 niggas. I'm usually fucking bitches. Women. But this dude, honey, I liked him. We might have got drunk. We might have not got drunk. But however it happened, I wanted to give him some. And it was good. So bam, that's what it is. So for me to see how some of these comments is, and then they're implying that whoever would sleep with Young M.A., like they got to be gay. Now, I hear a lot of queer people saying this too. So because she presents so masculinely, what type of man would be attracted to her unless he's gay? Now, I'm not saying that that's not a reasonable I'm not saying that that's not a reasonable assumption. That's a reasonable assumption, but it's not a necessarily true assumption. Just because this person presents masculinely, it doesn't mean that I can't explore this woman's body. Because at the end of the day, Young Ma is not trans. She is a lesbian. She is a woman that likes women. And if she was to have sex with a dude because she wanted to, that is still a woman's body. That's still a woman. And so a dude having sex with her is still a dude having sex with a woman, regardless of how masculinely she is presenting or how she's talking or how hood she is or how thug she is. That is still a woman. That's still a woman's body. She identifies with being a woman. And so a dude fucking with her technically will still be a heterosexual situation. It's just two masculine people having a heterosexual sex. That's all it is. And so it's not really rocket science, but y'all make sexuality so black and white. Y'all make sexuality so, y'all don't understand the nuances of it and the fluidity of sexuality. Y'all don't understand that just because you see two femme gay boys doesn't mean they both bottoms. Just because you see two masculine gay boys don't mean they both tops. It can manifest however it is. Just because you see a masculine lesbian with a femme lesbian, that doesn't mean that the masculine one is the aggressive. Sometimes the femme one is aggressive and the masculine one, she just present masculine one. She could be the pillow princess. Because sexuality is fluid and presentation of your gender presentation, your fashion and all that kind of stuff, whether it's masculine or feminine or androgynous, feminine or androgynous or whatever it is, it does not mean that how you have that translates to how you have sex. Now, sometimes it does, but that's not always necessarily true. There are nuances to how we have sex, who we have sex with, and what attracts us. And everybody doesn't always stick to the same thing when it comes to what they are willing to have sex with, what they are willing to explore, what they are willing to do. And it still doesn't change what's common for them. Like, I like big, sexy ass, masculine, dark-skinned men. That is my common. This is my common denominator. If you chocolate, I'm trying to stop saying chocolate. If you are dark-skinned, melanated, taller than me, nice body, not necessarily slim, but whatever, you probably are gonna be my type. That's my comment. But sometimes I'll see a stud and I'm like, damn, I could get with her. Very rarely, but sometimes. Sometimes it'll be like, I ain't never messed with a stud, but I could get with her. Because it's something about this one that's different than the rest of them that I saw. It's something about this one that's different. And that doesn't mean that I still don't like a fine ass man. I still like it. But there's certain things that go outside of the range. Some people just got that swag. Some people just got that motherfucking swag to where, yeah, your rules, you may think this is what you normally like, and you may still like it. But when you see me or engage with me, I'm the exception to your rule. And this me as a beautiful trans woman. This happens with guys, with cisgender guys who are by all definitions heterosexual, and then they see me. And if I'm their type, now if I'm not their type, this is not going to happen. But say that I'm their type, they like thick red bones and da 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 da. They like the type of look that I got. When they see me, they like, God, that's a bad bitch. That's my type. I like her. I ain't usually down with this trans stuff, but I could get with. This has happened all my life, and this happens to a lot of trans people, where that somebody thinks, oh, I could never deal with a trans person. I could never do that. But then when they meet one that they find attractive, oh, maybe I could play around. And sometimes it's experimental and it's not really going to go in a direction of a serious relationship, but sometimes it does too. But this happens to us all the time. And it happens to queer people all the time. You don't know how many queer people, gay, trans, however queer, that we have a story from high school or college about that straight friend that we had, that we was the person that they explored their sexuality with. And they never did it again. They did it with us, but they like, oh, this was fun to explore. And then they went on and got married or whatever they did. They had fun and enjoyed it and liked it. But they're like, okay, I liked it, but I think I like this over here still. Or I like it and I'm keeping it on low and continue to do it for the rest of my life. Or I like it and realize that, I really like this better than what I was doing. So I'm fucking with it over here. There are so many people that have queer people that have that gay, so many queer people that have that straight friend that they experimented with, and that straight friend said it's something about you. So yeah, I find it interesting how they are responding to the possibility of her being pregnant. Like, who is fucking and who is she fucking, and like who will fuck Young Ma, and making jokes like, who is Young Ma? Oh, Young Ma is pregnant. Who is who is her baby mama? um this one is really, really funny. Why are people saying this? If you're used to being on Twitter, sometimes somebody will say something on Twitter. Somebody will say something on Twitter, like imply that something, and it's not necessarily true, but it will go viral because of the jokes that's being made about the untrue statement. Does that make sense? So somebody said a joke about Young Ma being pregnant. So then people started to respond to it, respond. And so all the jokes is making her, being pregnant go viral, even though she is not pregnant. But the idea of her and people's jokes about it is going viral. So like this one, it says, "What's up, bro? You trying to smoke Young Ma?" Nah, I want to fuck some. All these crazy jokes. But I find it interesting that how they are responding to her potentially be pregnant. Her potentially could possibly get some penis. Have y'all not seen that studs sometimes gets penis? Hey, Andre. She should troll us back and keep it going. She really should. That would be funny. She is gorgeous for real. Yes, I find Young Ma to be very attractive. She's a very attractive woman. Very attractive, yeah. Mm. Who else? I remember my homegirl Trina. She was a stud in my high school. I wasn't attracted to her when we were in high school, but when we became adults, I was attracted to her. She was attracted to me in high school, but I was like, no. I was more very I was very that in high school. Um but as we got older and she got less aggressive. Like when we were in high school, she was like a stud that was more aggressive. And I didn't like that. I wasn't attracted to her just because I knew she had a vagina. But even her approach to me was too aggressive. It was like, no, it was too aggressive. But as we got older and we stayed friends and we started to hang out, she started to act normal. Once she realized that she wasn't, no, we're not messing around. She started to be normal and act normal. And so we started to be more friends and cool. And that is when I actually started to be like, oh, maybe. She started to be regular. And I had got older, and then that's when she started to be like, oh, maybe she is attractive to me. But when we were younger, she was too aggressive, and no, thank you. And then I remember when I was in my mid 20s, there was this stud that used to be at the club that would flirt with me, and I used to run from her in the club. Anytime I seen her coming, and it wasn't because I was attracted to her, or yeah, not attracted to her. I was actually attracted to her, and that intimidated me because I had never met a person like her that was trying to finesse me in a nigga kind of way. And she was so cute, so fucking cute. And every time I would see her, I would turn around and walk away and try to hide from her while we were in the club. Then I haven't had anybody in my older age, in like my 30s, that tried to holler at me. That were assigned, that were, women. I've had, of course, trans men. I had trans men try to holler at me, but not women, like masculine women or feminine women. I haven't had anybody that approached me the right way. It's always creepy. It's every time women approach me now that I'm older, it's always like creepy. It makes me feel like they tranny chasers. It's very, I don't know, it's very creepy uncle vibes. She is gorgeous for real. Keep it going. Like creepy uncle vibes. Like, ooh, damn. Um, I wish I could get a piece of that. It's not any kind of finesse. It's very, oh, I ain't never been with a trans woman. I would love to try you out. I don't like that. I don't have some finesse about it. They be creepy and like a creepy uncle, like a like a older nigga in the hood that's trying to holler at a young chick. That's how they be get they. That's the vibe they be getting to me. Hey, Camille. No, we actually just started. We only been on for like 25 minutes. This was a random live. Oh, do But yes. So there was a did you talk about the Wii Spy fiasco? I did not. I didn't really look into it that much. I did see the video. Me and my homegirls, when we were on our vacation this weekend, we did talk about it, and we discussed. We watched the video, and my thing was, I would want to hear the trans woman's perspective of this situation. And I come from an old guard of trans women. I'm old school. Um, and in my mind, you've been looking excellent, lady. Thank you. When you want to show out, you show out. Thank you. um, I would want to hear the trans woman's perspective. I just can't imagine. I know that we come in and we got some new age bitches that's a little bit different. But from my era of trans growing up, I don't know any trans women that's just walking around with their dick swinging in public. Now, I'm not saying that this does not exist. I'm not saying that this a person couldn't possibly be this person. But I'm just like I said, I'm old school, and I know it's some new school motherfuckers that are like walking around and don't want to be tucked and all that kind of stuff. That's not my ministry. That's not a ministry that I'm gonna ever be a part of. I am the old school trans woman. I feel like you should look the part. But I also feel that I feel like you should look the part, and I also feel like if you don't look the part, you should be giving it your best. But if you don't look the part, you shouldn't be treated badly for not looking the part. But um, I'm not gonna be running around in no. I don't care if it's a men's, a men's, a men's spa, a women's spa, a co-ed spa. As a trans person, I'm not gonna be tipping around no spa with my piece swinging. I'm not gonna be doing that. That's just not me. I just don't understand. Now, was the trans woman in the sauna and she had her towel around her body and just on accident when she turned a certain way, when she you know did something, moved a certain way and somebody saw something, I could see that possibly happening. Like she wasn't intentionally flashing somebody or just butt ass fucking naked. She may have been in a spot with people, and since she's not a sex change, she turned a certain way and somebody saw something. I could see that. But just walk around. I just can't see it. I heard that the spa is kind of like a daytime bathhouse, so you walk around naked throughout the spa area, but I'm not certain. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know about it. I just know even as a trans woman, that's just I just can't see that happening. I can see going to a spa, but just walking around with your piece flip flopping around in front of at this women's spa. Oh, you doing too fucking much. I would think you're doing too much for me. Um, and it's not something that I would argue for or against. I'm like, you should be free, but when you gotta expect certain things. Me and my homegirl was talking about like when you go to a new beach, okay, a new beach. I'm not going to no new beach. I'm not going to no new beach because I'm not walking around with my piece flapping out in public, even if it's okay for it to be that way. It's just I'm not gonna do it. And my homegirl said she did it, and she was like, She said in her experience, exhibitionists don't have a specific identity. No, they don't. Um, my homegirl said when she went to the nude beach, because she was this novelty, she's a trans woman. You don't really see that. Everybody was coming up talking to her. Everybody was coming up discussing her, discussing they had never, just because you are presenting a trans body with this juxtaposition of, if you are, you have your penis and you have your breast, or if you are a trans man, you have your vagina and then you have, top surgery, or however that works. And so in my mind, I feel like it comes with the territory. If you're going to be walking around in a public setting, there are going to be some people that are uncomfortable with your trans body. And they're going to respond to it if they're not used to, if this is not a space that they're used to having you in. They're going to, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that this is what's going to happen. In the same way my friend said on the beach that she, they were coming up to her, even though this is a place where everybody can be nude, just because it was a trans body and she has a trans body on this nude beach. They were coming up to her, talking to her, and having conversation. Now, they weren't being rude like that lady was, but they were having conversations about her body, and she was a novelty on that beach. And so if you go into a spa that's not a queer spa, it's a spa with everybody, you're gonna have some people that's gonna be like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. And that I just would, I'm not saying that the lady was right. I'm just saying that this is what's going to happen. We're going to continue to see these type of displays of disdain, these type of, if you are walking around with your piece out in situations where they're not used to being a novelty. We're a novelty everywhere. Yes, but there's a difference in being in a space where you're welcome, where it's a norm, and then being in a space where you don't know if you're welcome or not. These things are going to happen. People are going to respond to your body. Not saying that it's okay, but you got to be, if you're going to be out here with your dick swinging, you got to be prepared for these type of responses. If you're in a space where people are going to be, that's not welcoming to trans people. If you're in that space, it's going to happen. It's like anywhere that you can be nude, you're going to get a response to. And so for me, it's not for me, but I'm, there's new age people in the world that are like, ooh, I should be free to have my, free to walk around with my trans body. Yes, you should. Do your thing. And so when you do that, there is going to be a response to it. And I think the people at the spa handled it well. They were like, ma'am, we are a affirming space. That is a woman, blah, 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 blah. They did their job. That doesn't mean that she's not going to respond to it. That the transphobes are not going to respond. I just like how the spa handled it. They were like, she's a woman and we respect trans women and this is what it is. If that actually happened, I would love to hear the trans woman's perspective of it. Was she one of them trans people that just like, oh, fuck it, I'm gonna have my piece out, da da da, in a kind of rebellious, defiant way, or was it I accidentally flashed somebody on accident? I could really see that happening. Like if I'm in a spa with my towel and I turn a certain way and somebody sees something, I can see that happening too. And then this transphobe is like, oh my God, oh, and and then she turns it into something that she could really just leave, or she turns it into this big political thing. Yeah, that's understandable. Hopefully, we'll live long enough for people to get used to us, where it's no longer a shock, where there are nuances in bodies and not I don't think I'm gonna live long enough. Look, social change like that takes a while, I think. People are still I don't think it ever will. I don't think it ever will actually. Look at look at how long it took to hey Tony, how long it took to we're just now getting to the point where like breast and nude bodies, just the cisgender nude body is kind of not we're not shocked about seeing it. Do you see what I'm saying? We're not shocked about seeing a woman nude in a movie. When did the Hayes laws, it was a Hayes codes? I think it was Hayes. I can't remember. Um I have to look it up. But yeah, the laws where um um the laws where you couldn't have nudity in particular in films without it being without it like this is X-rated or da 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 da. But now seeing somebody's titties or seeing somebody's vagina and recently we're seeing more full frontal men nudity. Like we used to didn't see a lot of dicks. Hayes Code. Thank you, Reggie. We didn't see a lot of dicks. But now we're starting to see more dicks in movies. Remember that football movie called Any Given Sunday? Remember how shocking it was, that nude scene? I think it had Jamie Foxx in it. Everybody was talking about that nude scene in Any Given Sunday, that new locker room scene, because it was full penis out nudity, and we didn't really see that all the time back then. But now recently, we seeing full body nudity with the men. Women always have been objectified. We already have been seeing their titties and being seeing they coochie on cam on when they walking through a scene, not having sex, but full body nudity of women. We've been seeing them, but men, they don't put men on display like that. They recently started doing it. And so we're just now getting to the point where the cisgender body, the cisgender representation of a body is being on display. So it's going to definitely take a while for, the trans body to be so much of a norm that people are not like off put it, off, like shocked by it. I think it's going to be a long time before that. If ever, for real, for real. The juxtaposition is still wow. When can I take off my T-string, Miss Thing? Yes. Yeah, I find that to be yeah, it's not I get the movement. I think this is where I'm getting older and out of community. I'm getting older, and so I'm starting to be a part of the old guard of trans, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a part of a movement that is for. I'm not against them doing it, but I'm not gonna be a person out here talking about I want to have my dick swinging out. I want to go to the beach just like the cisgender people and have my penis out, penis and tits out. I'm not that person. I'm a little bit more I'm a little bit more conservative in that way. So um that's not my ministry. Now, I understand some trans person that wants to have that ministry, and I would never be against them or speak against them, but that's not something I'm going to be fighting for. I'm not going to be on the front lines to um I'm not going to be on the front lines for that fight. Classy, not conservative. I don't think it's classy. I'm not classy at all. I don't like the idea of classism of me being classy, because I'm a ratchet ass hood bitch that like ratchet shit, and I be naked. I have my titties out. I'm in that, so I'm not classy. I don't want to be classy. I think that that is respectability politics. but 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 yeah, I just don't. That's just not a fight. So there are some fights that I just don't. That I'm not going to be a part of. I'm not going to be holding them back. I'm not going to be talking against them. But I'm not going to be a part of the movement that says trans bodies should be free to be open just like everybody else is. I'm not that. I'm not gonna. That's not a fight I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna be like, oh, go ahead. I should be able to walk around nude in the spa. Yep, you should. If cisgender people should be able to walk around nude in the spa without being harassed, you should too. Absolutely. Am I gonna be there fighting for it? No, that's not the fight I'm gonna be in. I'm fighting for your rights in other sectors, but that I'm not gonna be there. I'm not gonna be commenting. Just that's why when this spot shit happened, I was like, "Ooh, that's not something that I'm gonna be speaking against or for. That's not my ministry." But good luck. Good luck with that. I would never. Yeah, it's just not my ministry. It's just not something that I would do. I wouldn't do that at all. What else? What else? What else has happened that we can talk about? So we talked about the We Spa. Um, hey Marissa, we talk about Young Ma and they them being gagged about her potential of being pregnant. Um, what else has been going on lately? What do y'all feel about weed? That the Chuck Schumer said that he is going to put in a federal bill to legalize weed federally. So that means it'll be statewide. How do y'all feel about that? Particularly people who don't smoke. Like people who smoke, of course, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm down for that shit. But if you don't smoke, what is your opinion of it? So I don't smoke, and so I feel like why not? Like we are now coming to get the facts that this shit that we're coming we're getting the facts of the history. You see what I'm saying? The facts in the history shows that this was all fucking bullshit that y'all used to demonize Mexicans, that y'all used to demonize black people, that y'all used to, to build this war on drugs, that that you that you use to fuel the prison pipeline. For me, it feels like it's obvious. It makes sense. Like, come on now. Like, this motherfucker's in jail for fucking 3 grams of weed or less for long ass fucking sentences, fucking losing their lives and not with their family, all because of some fucking bullshit ass weed. Like, get the fuck out of here. Life sentences. This motherfucker's with life sentences. Most usually because they have other charges, but they get busted with some weed and they bring all the other fucking charges. It doesn't make fucking sense. It seems fucking stupid. It's about time. I love that. I'm definitely down. I'm smoking now. I'm gonna shut up. Camille, you silly. Pass it. I haven't smoked in years. It needs to retroactively expunge all the marijuana related arrests and imprisonments. Facts. Um, I'm so sick of them talking about we legalize that shit and be done with it. I don't smoke, but it's annoying at this point. Annoying. At this point, it's like we have enough information. Get the fuck out of here. Decades. Don't smoke, but I feel the same as you do. I mean, we need reparations. We need reparations. Definitely. I don't know how to speak to that. I don't know how to speak to that, but yes. I'm all for the government paying up for wrongs that they have done. I love weed deeply, so I'm ready for them to hurry up. I want some of these studies, more studies. I would like to see what the have y'all read what is it called? This is a great book. I mentioned this before by Dr. Carl Hart. It is called Drug Use for Grown-ups. I really, 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 really love that book. Dr. Carl Hart, he uh, it is Drug Use for Grown-ups by Dr. Carl Hart. He just this book is amazing. That does heroin responsibility. Yes. He talks about he just goes in depth in um making his case about certain drugs should be legal, basically, because of the research. And he talks about some of the false narratives and false non-science based stuff that people just say, and it's just not true. He talks about how places like, is it Portugal or Spain or somewhere, Barcelona, somewhere they have legal like all drugs basically, and it lowered the crime rate and lowered the death rates of addiction, like ODing, overdosing, lowered the death rate. So all these good qualities, results that these people are seeing in countries that legalize drugs. And even is it Amsterdam? I don't know, don't quote me on the location, but one of the locations, they actually um one of the locations, he said they have set up locations where heroin addict could come once a week and get administered some heroin from the doctors. So they're getting fresh needles and getting heroin from a doctor. So they know what they, because in his study he says usually people overdose based on bullshit being put in the drug, not just the drug itself, like fentanyl and all kind of shit that they cut the drug with. That is what is killing motherfuckers. It's like those things, just the actual drug alone is not killing motherfuckers on that level. Do you see what I'm saying? And so what they found out was that people do less drugs when they can just openly do it. It's actually less. Free needles in Vancouver. Yes, that's so fire. They decriminalize all kinds of hard drugs in Portland, waiting to see the long-term effects of that. I totally want to see that too. Marissa, if anything, free needles exchange needs to be prevalent and readily accessible for everyone. Absolutely. That's quite simple. That helps on so many fronts when it comes to, like, disease stuff. Like when we come to stopping the spread of HIV and any kind of, needle passed along, any disease that a needle could pass along. And then making it illegal makes people, because even if free needles was accessible, that can actually, if cops is watching, if it's still illegal, motherfuckers ain't gonna go to no fucking clinic or no place to get free needles, because then motherfucking cops could be watching, and then they could be scared to go to that shit because, oh, then the cops gonna know, and then I'm gonna be fucking getting busted. So even it has to be a combination of decriminalizing and making those free things accessible. And then they have, I think, is I don't know if it's Vancouver. The danger is in the sneakiness. And then there was one where you can, I don't know how he said that it was effective in the book, but I'm like, I don't know how effective this is, but because who is gonna be fucking spending their money to test out drugs, to test out some drugs when I might not even have enough to get high? But they said they wanted to have clinics, or they have them where they can test the purity of their drug, where you test it to see if it's if it's mixed with too much fentanyl, which can lead to your fucking death, or uh, is it pure? Like, is it, where is this? How pure is this batch? But then I'm like, honey, if I'm a addict and I want to get high, do and I spend my last dollars on some fucking get high, am I gonna go to this clinic to test portion of my drug? I don't know if that's realistic, but I don't know how. I don't do drugs, so I don't know how it all works. But I just feel like at least there should be some type of attempt to look into the real, the real science behind all the shit. I'm not read up on it, but have we seen any safe zone practices area designated for drug use in society? In the United States, I haven't seen it, but I have seen, like Marissa was just talking about, they have decriminalized hard drugs in Portugal, but we haven't seen any kind of reports that they have put out. I haven't. If y'all can find some, let me know and put it in the chat box. Any kind of reports on what has happened in Portland. And I really, because I lost my mom to a fentanyl death in December. Me reading this book, it really gave me so much insight on how like all this shit could have happened. And my mama has been doing drugs all her fucking life, not all her life, since the 90s. And so I never really had to worry about her like ODing on no fucking drugs because her drug of choice was crack. And so don't nobody fucking OD on crack. And so I'm like, I had to learn about how all this happened through this book, and it really and how her being in the culture of drugs led to her death. Hmm. Yeah, but I feel like they're going in the right direction. I feel like it's gonna come. I don't know how long it's gonna come. But what sounds frightening, Brandon? What sounds frightening? Decriminalizing hard drugs in Portland? Actually, the studies in other locations that decriminalize drugs, it actually the crime rate went down and death rate went down. So it actually was positive effects in other places that did that. Why reparations? If the racial wealth divide is left unaddressed, median black household wealth is a path to hit zero by 2053. Median white household wealth will climb to 137K in 2053. I was referring to Marissa's comment above mine. Oh, I don't see it. I can't see her comment. The last comment by Marissa that I see is about Portland. Oh, okay. I don't see it. um, why reparations? Yeah, I think reparations are important, but um, you know what? Also in that conversation, what's interesting in that conversation, y'all know this year Asian men surpassed the median salary of white men. Is that wild? Let me go read numbers. I saw them the other day. One second. I have to find it. One second, one second, one second. Oh, yeah. All right. This is from my friend who has been on the show. Research that they do. This is work that they actually do in researching social shit. So this is what they have found recently. Zeandrian, who's been on the show, who's been on my channel, and Marsha's Play, their profile on their profile, if you want to follow them, is called Ignant, the Ignant Intellectual. The Ignant Intellectual. TheIgnantIntellectual. The Ignant. Like, this bitch is ignorant. Um, so the statement: for every dollar a man makes, a woman makes 78 cents. The problem: this statement is incomplete and further exemplifies the importance of complicating and nuancing the conversation to include race and gender. Many would even argue that this statement is racist and sexist. I am many. I am many people. Let's look at it by race and gender, shall we? White men make $1. Asian men make 96 cents for every white man's dollar. Asian American women make 90 cents. Pacific Islander, like Native Hawaiian men, make 81 cents. White women make 78 cents. American Indian men, that's natives, make 74 cents. Black men make 73 cents. Pacific Islanders, Native Hawaiian women, make 64 cents. Latin men make 64 cents. Wait. Native Hawaiian makes 65 cents. I'm sorry. Latin men make 64 cents. Black women make 64 cents. American Indian women make 55 cents. Latin women make 54 cents. Now, that was from the Sadie Nash Leadership Project in 2016. Well, what about more recent data? Let me see. Side note, how much money do you think it is fair for each of us to get for reparations? That is a loaded question, child. I don't even know. How are you going to figure out who gets the money with so many biracial people, so many like, how are you going to distinguish who gets the money? That's another question. Like, I know direct descendants of slave, but what about people? Like, it's so many. Like, it's some white people that are direct descendants of slaves. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, when you do DNA, they got some slave in their blood too. Like, what about, like, say you have this descendant of slave, and then in the 40s, they married a white man, had children, all their children was one of them was they had children by a white man, biracial. That biracial child in the 40s, in the 50s, married another white man. Now those children are less, they but still biracial, but more white passing. And then they go and marry another white man, and so on and so on. And so now in 2021, they're white because they are who they are. But their parents, their great grandparents, They are descendants of slaves. Do they get some money? It all gets real weird. Like, how do you determine that? Do you got to still be black? The qualification is having an ancestor that descend from U.S. chattel slavery, and you have to identify yourself as African American, Black, Negro, etc. 12 years prior to implement of the program. Hmm. Now, is that something you made up? Where are you getting the qualifications? That's what you think should be the qualifications? I think it should be more than just money. Mm, that these are great points. That's why it should have happened back in like the 1905. Should have been happened. Then we wouldn't have these kind of questions. This is part of the research coming out of Dr. Sandy Darity for Duke University, who wrote a book about this. Great. Dr. Sandy Darity. The last thing I read about reparations was Ta-Nehisi Coates, his little situation. Dr. What do you call it? Dr. Sandy Darity. I will get into that. Put that in my notes. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it gets real. It gets real complicated because they're like look at look at look at look at like a Rashida Jones. If Rashida Jones have some babies by a white man, their kids would just be regular white. But she has some history. I don't know. All these questions have been answered in his book. Somebody presenting it doesn't mean that they're the definitive answer. I get, you know, these this doesn't mean the reparation should include resources like counseling, healthcare, and housing. I think these are all theoretical solutions that people are presenting, but if they are not put on paper for these motherfuckers to follow, they're just all theories and suggestions. Yes, we know what reparations are, but what I'm saying is that getting it done, these are the questions that's going to make it complicated. They're not on law. When I say on paper, I'm talking about on the government has said, because we're trying to get reparations from the government. If they haven't said they're going to pay it, I'm not talking about somebody saying, "Oh, I have put it down in a book for you to understand how we can figure this out." Yes, it's on paper for that doctor that you just named. That yes, but I'm talking about them saying, "Oh, this is the way we're going to do it. This is officially how we're going to do it." They haven't done that. They haven't even passed a law to get it studied. To get to that was the whole thing about the civil rights leader that just passed away. He was trying to present to get the research done for it, and they wouldn't even pass the shit. So anybody writing about it is just writing suggestions, basically, of how it could be. Yes, John Conyers. Anybody writing about it is writing what their suggestions, what they feel like this is how we can make this work. Until the government says, yes, this is how we're going to do it, then it's when I'm talking about on paper, that's what I mean. There's tons of theory and directions from people of how to do it. But if they haven't said, they're the power. If they haven't said, oh, we're going to do it, then it's not on paper yet. to make them accountable and obligated for it. It would be nice if I didn't have to pay taxes for a decade. I don't know. I need something more. I feel like we deserve more. I do. I think well, somebody said it earlier. It needs to include more resources, counseling, healthcare, and housing. Yes, I think it should include more. I think it should include not only money, but also those things. I think it's a lot of things. Hmm. Well, I think the issue is anti-blackness. I got in. I'm being currently attacked by Native Americans because of an episode that I have, and they are asking. Literally, I have Native Americans asking me right now for reparations because I said something on my channel and said something on my it said something on my show that was about African indigenous people, and they are literally attacking me right now currently asking me, a black trans woman, for reparations. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was quite hilarious, actually. But the episode is gonna. I'm responding to them this week on Thursday. But some some Asian, not Asian, some native girl. Do y'all remember when I had my Ia on the show? My my spiritual mother, my Ia. So in that conversation, the context of the conversation was that we were talking about African indigenous relations. We were talking about we already talked about Young Ma. You're gonna have to go back and listen. We were talking about African indigenous religions and indigenous people. And for like 30 seconds, when we were when my Ia was talking about two spirit and the idea of two spirit being in African cultures, like trans people, queer people, and two spirit people being in African cultures. In that conversation, I said that our, that two spirits isn't just native people. Like two spirit, there are other people who translated their words into English that meant two spirit, that meant, you know, two spirit. Like it was just something that multiple indigenous people who had gender diverse um beings in their culture, they will tell you, yes, we had two spirit people, we had queer people, we had trans people. They may not look exactly how we are talking about now in our culture, but we had something that resembled that. And the closest words that translate from English is like two spirit, dual spirit, twin spirit. And they were shamans, and they were believed to have more connection to God because they had the feminine and masculine energy. And so this is the idea of what we were talking about when it comes to indigenous Africans. So, what we know is there's a difference between being indigenous and being Native American. So, indigenous, when you say a person is indigenous, indigenous means anybody who was taking care of the land before it was colonized. So, there is indigenous Africans, there's indigenous Europeans, there's indigenous Australians, Aboriginal, indigenous Americans, like that's going to be like Mayans and Native Americans, and we call them now American Indians. It's multiple tribes, multiple, so many things. And so in the 90s, okay, in the 90s, there was a gathering in Canada, right? There was a gathering in Canada by a group of there was a gathering in Canada with a group of native leaders, two spirit leaders, native leaders, at a gathering in Canada. They decided in 90s, excuse me, they decided in the 90s that, oh, let me go back. I'm sorry. I'm trying to educate y'all. So I want to be very thorough. I'll be more thorough on the show when I'm reading that bitch. But I'm trying to be more thorough. So before they had this gathering, the colonizers, not just in America, I want you to understand this, not just in America, there was a word called birdash. Okay. Birdash is originated as a Muslim word, but it kind of started to change because language shifts, and other people started to use it, and it meant slave, kept boy, some type of the passive man in a homosexual relationship. It had queer connotations. It meant like a slave boy, a sex toy, it gave it was queer connotations. Okay, so it was called birdash, BERDASHE. And it's a word that when the colonizers, the white people, the European, the British Empire colonized 25% of the land. So in all across the world, this is what their height of the British Empire was, like 1920s. But this is what they were doing when they were going out. And so when they would meet cultures that had gender diversity in them, when they would meet, African tribes that had, people who were actually born male, but they were dressing as female or doing social things as the women, because this tribe allowed that stuff to happen. They allowed a more queer expression. When they met it in the Native American community, when they would meet these people with queer identities or queer social structures, they would call them birdash. So they would call them this word that they had been culturally using, the colonizer had been culturally using, but it would be disrespectful. And so over time, Native Americans found that word to be disrespectful. And so during this meeting in the 90s, they decided to use this language. The language was Ojibwe. Ojibwe. Let me make sure. Ojibwe. Just so I want to. Yes, Ojibwe. Yes, it is Ojibwe, Ojibwe. So the Ojibwe language, they translated one word from that language, even though Native American tribes have a million damn languages. They have just as many tribes, just as many languages, blah, blah, blah. They decided, this group of Native people said that We're translating this word and we're translating it into English. And this is actually what we want y'all to call us, two spirit. We don't want y'all to call us that funky ass bird ash. That's disrespectful. We know the history of that connotation. That's disrespectful. So for you to be respectful to us, the two spirit people in our culture, we want this word that we're translating from this one language is translated. The best translation, even though it's not exact, the best translation is two spirit. So it is respectful for you to call us two spirit. So because that 90s thing happened in America. Now, mind you, I just talked about the British Empire being a stronghold at one point. When America broke off and became its own entity, America became the American Empire. And so what happens is anybody who is oppressed by the American Empire, actually, because of the power, okay, because of the power of the American Empire, anybody who is oppressed by them on our land, on American land, is actually going to be the privileged voice when it comes to issues. For example, when we talk about race issues, Black Americans are going to be the leading voice because of our connection to slavery, because of our connection to the American Empire. So that's why when shit happens racially to us, it has the power to impact the whole globe. That's why people study our race scholars. That's why people know who Martin Luther King is, know who Frederick Douglass is, know people outside of the US know US history when it comes to racial stuff, because of our proximity to the American Empire, who is going to different countries oppressing people. Our voice bucking up against that system is privileged. Native Americans have that same privilege. Native Americans, because this is their land that the American Empire is on, when we talk about their voice when it comes to indigenous critiques of the American Empire, their voice is going to be more privileged than other indigenous people around the world. Mind you, remember what I said, the difference between indigenous and Native American. I'm making a very distinct difference when I say their voice, Native Americans, they are indigenous people, but their voice are going to be more privileged than some indigenous person in Australia, indigenous person in Africa, indigenous person in Asia, in Europe, in wherever. Because of Native Americans' proximity to the American Empire, they are going to be privileged around bucking up against that system. So when you hear scholars in the Native American tradition talk about how they're colonized and how this is what needs to happen, we are going to center their voice more than other indigenous people, right? And so what this person does, this person who is attacking me, this person says that I told them that Two Spirit is not theirs. And what I mean is, other people in other indigenous cultures translated their language, their English language, their language into English, and it means two spirit, dual spirit, it means that. So you can't say that you own the English language. That is a colonizer's language. You own your particular language's word for it. You don't own English. You can't own English words. They are the colonizer. In it, all over the world, all over the world, people translated their language, and there's gonna be some overlap. This is a cup with some water in it. This is a cup. In English, cup is cup, right? Rashawn Burke, we already talked about Young Ma. We on something else. Sorry, you're late. So this is a cup. So the word, English word for this is a cup, right? Or a glass or blah, 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 whatever this is. So when some English person comes and says, when the English person comes and says, "Oh, give me something to drink, you savage." I'm joking. They're not gonna be like that. Say they come to sneak and colonize and say, "Give me something to drink." They're gonna say, the English person gonna say, "Well, do y'all have any cups?" The whoever native person say, "Our word is a whatever the word is in their language that means cup." And the English person is gonna say, "Well, we call that a cup." And they're gonna say, "Oh, cup. Oh, our word is da 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 da, but English is cup. Would you like a cup?" The native person is gonna, the indigenous person is gonna say cup. They're gonna translate their language to cup. Now, if this is like, say this happens in Africa, I translated my African word into cup. If you go over here to South America, when those British people go over to South America and the same exact thing happened, they're going to translate their like, say they're in where Brazil is now, but it's not Brazil yet. Whoever the indigenous people in Brazil, when they meet these white motherfuckers that come and try to colonize them, and they're trying to talk to them, and they have a word for cup, they're going to translate what their word, say their word is cha-cha-pa-ta-ta-ta. Their word is that cha-cha-ta-ta-ta-ta is a cup in English. So they're going to tell you, this is a cup in our culture. This is a cup in the English word. That's their translation. Come to Native Americans. We are going to call this thing a cup. We're going to capitalize the C, and we're going to tell you we own cup, C-U-P, the English translation. None of you other indigenous people can use cup, because we own this, because somebody in the 90s, some group in the 90s made the translation from one language that this is a cup. This is basically what she's saying, that other indigenous people can't use Two-Spirit because their tribe made it popular. You only became popular because you are privileged by your connection to the American empire. Other indigenous people, particularly in Africa, which me and my EO was talking about, they did the same translations. They did. You know what? They did the same translations. You don't own the translation. What you own is your own language. So whatever your word was for cup, Hakuna Matata, whatever that word was, that's what you own. That's yours. That's your culture. You don't own the English translation. We all could translate into the cup. We all could translate our word to say cup, because this is the English word for cup. Does that make sense? I don't understand how this bitch is not getting it. Because I'm not saying anything that doesn't make sense. I'm not saying, to me, and I like to be in right relationship with people, but I'm talking to my spiritual mother about the fight, about the history. I'm sorry, about the facts of our history. And she's telling you, this is a 72-year-old woman who is a 35-year priestess in an indigenous African religion. And she is telling you that in their culture, Yoruba culture, that there are people who will tell you that Two-Spirit, dual spirit, twin spirit people existed in their culture. And this is the best. They had other words for them, like adodi. Adodi, it could mean homosexual. It could mean, it's so many things that it could mean. Let me get, adodi is one. I ain't gonna go into all that. But yes, it is so many words that we had that could mean that was their own words, but they loosely translated it to two spirit, dual spirit. Um, that it could be homosexual and da 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 da, all that kind of shit. So her literally, if you go to her page is let me see if I can find it. Oh, this is too long. Do I even want to give her this kind of clout? No, I'm not gonna do that. Fuck her. You can. So anyway, she feels like we owe her an apology because we told her that I told her, not we. I said on my channel, on my podcast, and on my channel here that she does not own an English translation. You own the word in your own language for Two Spirit. You don't own the English translation. Many people translate. Be you talking about a group that happened in the 90s as if people weren't translating the English language before the 90s. We made it our own because our leaders came together in the 90s and said that it is Two Spirit. By the way, the word for cups is in what language is that, Amara? But that's what I'm saying. There's so many words. Native American, oh, the black, they enslaved, reparations, and tribal membership. Facts. And this is what I said to her. And this is also what I said. Now, mind you, this is a girl who's been a fan. And this is why I feel like it's more of anti-blackness. I feel like she's anti-black. And I have proof because when I go back to our conversation, let me show you what she said. You and ignorant intellectual also talked about the restrictive nature of the English language. Come on, Reggie. The restrictive nature of the English language. Other languages have more nuance. And so when we're trying to translate, it's not going to always fit perfectly. And other people are going to have some of similar translations. So I'm really not understanding y'all. And if y'all are understanding, and I really and I'm being real, I don't understand why. Yes, it's Yue. This is her. Yes, this is Yue. I don't understand why she is, other than her act anti-blackness, why she is trying to attack me in this way, because she has been a fan of mine for 12 years. And we have had problems in the past, not problems, but we have had situations in the past where we talked to each other about stuff and we got down to the bottom of it. Not really about me, because I already knew most of the stuff that she talks about, I know about. And so, but there was an incident. Let me give you a perfect example. So there's a common phrase that we use that I'm sure y'all have heard of. The common phrase was, um, man, I'm just making this up. Let's say I'm feeling oppressed because I'm on the bottom of the totem pole. Being on the bottom of the totem pole, that statement, that phrase is like a figure of speech that I have heard people say all of my life, and I say it. So sometimes, like if I'm talking about something, I'll be like, yeah, I'm the last person to get the kind of benefit because I'm freaking on the bottom of the totem pole. So Yue came to me and said, well, let me educate you on that, ma'am. Not, and she wasn't being smart. She wasn't being smart. She was really educating me. And she said, that actually is, that context that y'all be using that in is actually wrong. Totem is a part of our culture. And totem actually is actually the opposite. The totem pole represents family, and the first face on the bottom of the totem pole is actually the strongest and the more privileged because they carry the weight of the rest of the family. And so it's the person on the bottom is actually the strongest and more privileged. Thank you, Rashawn. Is actually more privileged. And so for me, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So you're teaching me something. So now that and then I knew, just based on cultural, I knew that totem had something to do do with native. And so this native person is telling me you're using that wrong. And so for me, I immediately say, thank you. That I understand exactly what you're saying. That's important. That context is really important. Thank you for sharing that with me. I will make the adjustment. No questions asked. I fully got it, understood it. That was the only problem that she had with me. Super, super simple. It was super simple. It makes sense. Got it. So I no longer say that. Now, let me tell you the type of shit that she says to me. Oh, let me go on her page and say, this is another thing. She says, what you need to know about the word savage and how you're being anti-native, upholding settler colonization, but colonialism. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. Settler colonialism. Non-natives are not to use savage. She's saying that non-natives are not supposed to use savage because that's a derogatory word towards them. Baby, you must be out of your rabbit ass mind if you don't think that they were calling African savages too. Where in your brain do you not understand that they came to Africa first calling us savages before they even made it over here to the Americas? They were calling the Moors savages before they even made it over here to the Americas. Like, where do you think you own savage? Because they called you savages? They called everybody who wasn't fucking a part of the British European culture savages. Everybody. Every place that they landed that had people on it, they called savages. Aboriginal, Africans, Native Americans, everybody they called savage because we didn't live like them. How the fuck you gonna think that you own savage, or you can say people can't say savage when you're not the only culture that was called savage? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. She says savage is a slur, savage is dehumanizing. Stop saying savage in all forms. She feels like Rihanna, this was based on that. She feels like Rihanna, as a black woman, should not name her brand Savage Fenty. Bitch, are you crazy? First of all, it's wild that you're saying this over a makeup brand. But let's play with the idea. If you're reasoning that this black woman can't say savage or name her brand savage or Megan Thee Stallion can't have a song called Savage, or Beyonce can't be on a song called Savage, because this is what she was saying. If your reasoning is because they use savage as a slur against you, then you also have to know that they use, or you may not, but I'm here to educate you, that they use savage as a slur to black people too. It doesn't make sense for you to think that because that you are Native American and these Americans fucking wore you out. I understand. I know the history of Native. I know the history of the colonization. Absolutely. I read and listened to Native people. But baby, you have to listen to other cultures. I know, because your connection to the American empire, it privileges you, but other cultures were called savage too. Other cultures were called savage. You weren't the only one. We're referred to as these things and take ownership to empower and embrace what we have been targeted as savages, beasts, non-human, and everything. It's so aggy that she's coming for black people. Yes, this is her name. I might as well show it. This is her talking about savage. She has a long ass name, but it's Yue. I know her as Yue Begay. No, she is anti-black. This is what she's saying that she's pressed about. This is the surface. But she's an anti-black ass girl. So let me give you this. Let me give you this. This is our history in 2012. Now, she's been following me for years. Been following me for years. Been a fan for years. Has forced herself into my inbox. Forced herself into my inbox, forced herself to be my friend. She was very, very persistent early on in our relationship. Right, the plot thickens. The early in our relationship, just so y'all know, me sitting in front of the camera in my home, comfortable, chilling. This is so easy. I'm not intimidated. Nobody is here with me. I know y'all watching, but this ain't intimidating at all. When you get me in public, I'm a great speaker. When I need to be on, I'm a great speaker. I'm an educator, da 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 da. But when I'm just chilling, I'm probably not gonna be talking to nobody. I'm probably just gonna be sitting there like, unless somebody come and talk to me, I'm probably gonna be really quiet. I'm not an introvert, but I'm an ambivert. So, y'all, all right, Diamond, play truth. Y'all had her on the anniversary episode too. Yes, I had given her so much room on my platform because she's a native girl, young girl trying to be an activist. And I was like, oh my God, this is a part of my politic. My part of my politic is if there's other oppressed groups, because oppression is all connected, I give you space if I let you do it. What's an ambivert? It's ambivert. Ambivert. Like ambivert. It's like you got introvert and you got extrovert. Ambivert is like in the middle. You can look it up. How can you be an activist at the expense? So let me tell y'all, because y'all distracted me. I'm gonna stop reading. So she would hit me up, and I would tell people, if you're trying to be my friend, like in real life, outside of this internet shit, you have to do it in a way that's not weird. You feel what I'm saying? Um you can't. So like if you add me on social media, like a something, comment on a status. Like that's how you build my rapport with you. And I see your comments, you got smart comments, or you got something funny, you post something funny. And it can't be all about trans stuff. It's all about, just being your normal self and talk and us engaging. That's how I meet people online. You can't be coming in my inbox talking about trans shit all the time. Like if you coming in my inbox talking about trans shit, what I'm gonna tell you? I'm gonna tell you, hey, this is my personal page. I don't want you coming in my inbox every time about trans stuff. Go, if you want to talk to me about trans stuff, go to my Diamond Stylz page. Send that to her. Everybody keep coming in on this Young Ma. We done talking about Young Ma. I shouldn't have named it that. So I go and look. So go to Diamond Stylz, send that to Diamond Stylz, because what that allows me to do is that when I'm in the mode to be activist and I'm in the mode to give advice about this trans stuff, I can go to that page and go to the messages for that page and say, hey, I don't need that in my personal inbox. It's like, yeah, I have emails and stuff for each one. So if you want advice, boom. But she found my personal page. And so she kept hitting me up. I didn't add her to my friends list. I told you this title was going to wear you out. Yeah, Brandon, I should have known. So she told me to go to her personal. She found my personal page. I never added her at first. She would send me messages and she would be trying to be my friend. And I would tell her, I like it to be like normal. Like I like it to just talk to me about normal stuff. But she would not respect my boundaries. She would hit me up about problems that she was having with her family, problems that she was having, all this trans-based stuff. You feel what I'm saying? It's like playing work. Yes, Polka. Yes, Miss Polk. So in the context of the situation, I keep telling her, but this is somebody who has reiterated so many times that I really look up to you. I really find your words to be powerful. I really been watching you since I was young. I really like you as a person. And so I don't want to be the bitch motherfucker. I don't feel like a fucking celebrity. So I don't want to be the bitch like, girl, gone. I'm trying to balance helping this young trans girl and helping this young trans girl and still keeping my boundaries. And so at one point I tell her, one second, especially disregarding boundaries. Yes. And so this is 2000 and she says, okay, so this is how her anti-blackness started to creep up. So she's not respecting my boundaries and still coming to me talking about her problems. But whenever she talked to me about something that wasn't her problems, it was always objectifying Black men. So if it wasn't about transness, her way to try to connect with me is Black dick. Go figure. So she hits me up and says, girl, you're getting me into Black men. I say, LOL. I said, everybody's into Black men. Everybody's on, honey, basically everybody Black on earth. You're just going back to your roots far, far back. LOL. So I'm making a joke that everybody's Black, sweetie. If you get down to you go farther back, making a joke. And she says, about that, I'm Native American, so I just have a different belief. And I say, well, genetically, genetics are not about belief, sweetie. That's stone cold hard facts. And she says, in my tribe, Black people were viewed as medicine people because we use certain mud as medicine. Smiley face. My grandma told me the first time we saw a Black person, we should rub them and touch ourselves to bless ourselves. I says, no, what I mean is we all have basic African genetics, the mitochondrial Eve. And she says, okay, I hope I didn't offend you by what I said because I didn't finish the conversation. So that was weird. She's establishing that she doesn't believe that we all come from Africa if we go far back. Okay? So she already believes that. And then she says, this same year, she comes back and she says, thank you so much. And I put a question mark because this is random. She's just saying thank you randomly. And I say question mark. She says, you might be annoyed, but now mind you, when a non-Black person says, because Black people are used to microaggressions, when a non-Black person says, I hope this doesn't offend you, but I hope you don't go off on me. I hope this might sound weird. This might sound annoying. When you preface something like that, I know it's about to be some racist ass fucking shit. And you know it. That's why you're prefacing this microaggression. But here it goes. She says, you might be annoyed by this, but I finally have a Black boyfriend and it's thanks to you. I say question mark how? See, I don't go for Black peeps. Let me explain. I barely get into light-skinned guys. But watching your videos, you seem to make them seem nice. I was raised with a bad connotation of Black people, but I gave it a shot and now bam. Thanks, Diamond. I probably sound like a bitch or a cunt right now, but I just want you to know that I mean it from the bottom of my heart. So when she says, I probably sound like a bitch or a cunt right now, she knows that this anti-Black talk is wrong. She knows it. She looks like a stereotypical native person, but kind of like whitish, not the dark ones, the light complected ones. And she says, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I said, no, you sound like you're being honest. And, I appreciate honesty. I'm glad that I changed your idea of Black people. And so I'm very uncomfortable with this conversation because this is an anti-Black conversation. And then she says, I said, well, I'm glad to change your idea of Black people. She says, yeah, he's amazing. I say, because I'm uncomfortable, I start giving her dry responses. I say, congrats, LOL. And then she continues, but he's half Black though, half white, Finnish, and half Black. But he's still amazing. I like him light skinned. I say, great, LOL. So you're not only giving me fetishist vibe, you on some colorist shit, you on some anti-Black shit. This is weird. This is really, really weird. Now, some people would be like, oh man, girl, why? I wouldn't have been fucking with her after that. Then she asked me later on, hey, do you want to hear a racist joke? Let me see if I can get it to zoom in. Want to hear a racist joke? That was from back in 2012. Y'all see, I didn't respond to it. I didn't even say anything to her. When she said it, I was like, what? Why would you ask a Black person, do they want to hear a racist joke? How do I even say anything to that? I'm not responding to that bullshit. This is weird. So most people would be like, why would you even fucking with her? So in the moment of 2012, I wasn't fucking with her. Random people would hit me up, and sometimes she would hit me up and she would say something and I would be like, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? And I wasn't, because she wasn't on my friends list yet. It was just a message coming through the inbox. But then over time, when I told her, look, because sometimes I'm an altruistic bitch too. So sometimes she'll come with a trans problem that's quite interesting. Like her brother's sister didn't want her to be around the kids, or didn't want her to, there was something that was interesting. And I literally wrote a message to her sister-in-law for her to show her how to word it right so it doesn't feel like an attack. Like I literally helped her like have the conversation because she's a child. She was, at the time, I think she was like 19, 20. And so I'm literally helping you do this. And so I say, so over time, I tell her, yo, this is how you got it. If you're trying to be my friend, this is how you do it. So over time, she started to get better and she stopped having these weird ass racist comments. She stopped having them. And so she would comment on statuses. I added her to my friends list. She would comment on statuses. She started to be less weird. The preface being an excuse to disrespect you. Yes. Just training the girls. So I'm you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, this, write this to her. I'm telling her how to engage with her mother, and also this is another thing. We have very similar backgrounds in regards to our upbringing. Her mother was an addict. My mother was an addict. She got taken away from her family and put into a group home. I was kicked out of my mom's house because my mama went to a prison. And then I went to a group home. So we have these things in common. So when she comes to me early on, she's sharing these things that we have in common. And she's on some shit like, wow, you're teaching me so much. And, she's younger than me. So she's like, oh, how did I just feel like I don't have any options, and I feel like as a trans person, I'm just so oppressed. Da 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 da. How have you got to the point to where you are, where you seem like you're happy? So this is the stuff that she's hit me with, and I'm an altruistic bitch. I'm a bitch that's tender. I'm a bitch that if I see a hurt puppy, I'm gonna try to help it. That's me. So I'm like, oh, well, let me do what I can to help you. So that's why even though I felt like her anti-blackness was just a child, this is somebody who is telling me that I grew up with a bad connotation. Also, let me point this out. Wait, are you a Pisces? Yes, I am a Pisces. Anyway, I say, another thing, back to that conversation, I want to point this out. Did y'all hear her say that her grandmother said that black people were magical and to touch them, right? When she was little, when they saw a black person for the first time, her grandmother said that they were medicine people, and magical and to touch them. Remember? That's what she said. But then later in the conversation, she said, I have a bad connotation of black people. So how do you go from magical medicine people to bad connotation? What that tells me is that you having been ingrained with the colonizers' anti-blackness. Something has happened. But guess what? She came on our show. She came on our show eventually, cognitive dissonance, boom. She came on our show and she shared with me on our show how her culture is anti-black. And we're exposing, like allies do, we're exposing privileges. She's exposing to me certain words that if I'm around Native and they call me this, they're being disrespectful. Like, is Jenny? There's a word, I'll post it when I let her ass have it. There's a word called Janine, and she says if the longer version does not mean anything derogatory. It is what they would call in their culture black people. Like when they would come over to, like when they were running away from like slavery, and they would come over further to the west of the United States before the West was made into states and shit. They had words for them, and the words meant the dark ones. And it wasn't meant to be derogatory. They were the dark ones. Their complexion was way darker than theirs. And so that their word for us is not meant to be derogatory. But this new generation has taken that word and shortened it. And that word in the context of their culture is meant similar to nigger, jigaboo, something, the context of how offensive it's supposed to be. That word is disrespectful. So she's sharing with me that they have a word in their culture that means something, not exactly nigger, but something that's meant to be a pejorative. And so you're telling me that your culture is really, really anti-black because they have assimilated into whiteness, that they are anti-black. And so the fact that all of this history of us talking and us building a friendship and all these things, I'm literally teaching you how to be an activist. Like literally. She has said it so many times. Let me read this message. She has said it so many times. When I invited her to be a guest she is one of the, so there are, it's so much tea to this. There are on our podcast, when we look at our analytics, we can tell who are the most listeners on our show. So the top 3 listeners, 2 of them are one of them is a cisgender gay man, a cisgender woman, and then the top trans person is her, and she's number 3. Out of our whole show, out of our whole 5 years, she has listened the most. And so because she had listened the most, whoa, who is she? Hey, y'all. Her name is Yue Begay. And so she has the most, you get what I'm saying? She was the most trans listener. And so I said, Oh, well, for our 3-year anniversary, let's bring her on as the host with us to co-host with us just for a 3-year anniversary special. And she was on it. And so when she promoted the show, she was said how honored she was, and she was like, "Y'all need to get into it. This is hosted by one of the most influential trans people in my life." And so this is somebody who I felt like revered me, not on no arrogant shit, because this is what she's saying. So if somebody thinks of you like that, you don't want to ruin that image. I don't. I want. I now I'm not. I'm. That don't mean I'm not gonna be myself. I'm gonna be myself. Yeah, she's a Navajo. Yeah, she's Navajo. And so she she so I'm gonna be myself, but when it comes to these type of people, when it comes to her, I was being real tender to her and being nice. She's a young girl who has been nice at this point. And at this point, she hadn't done any of the weird anti-black shit that she had done 10 years before, 10, 11. She has grown because now this is when she's 19, 20, 21, 22. Now she's like 29, 28, all that kind of age. So I'm like, oh, I have been patient with her and she has grown. She's not just hitting me up about black men and dick. She's not just hitting me up asking me weird ass racist shit. She's being normal. So at this point, we good. That was a time to cuss the hoe out, all weirdo. So when I asked her years ago, this was a year ago, this was in 2020, June. I asked her, this is before we got into it, anything happened. This all happened in February, the getting into it part. I asked her, do you consider yourself two-spirit or trans or both? Like, what is that? Because she was having an issue with how transness was being, how two-spirit was being lumped in with LGBT, which I think is kind of weird, but that's not my business. She says, I actually consider myself both two-spirit, trans, and indigiqueer, which is indigenous queer. That. So however that works. And I'm not somebody, I'm old school. I'm not somebody who's like so old school that all these words, all these damn new words. I hate people like that. There are going to be new words. There are going to be new concepts. There is going to be so much. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm not somebody who's looking at it like all these new words. If you come up with a new word, I'm just going to go with it. Okay, so I say, okay, so around the world, there are cultural labels that we would consider trans, some entities that revolve around gender identity, over like in South Asian culture, the hijra. Um, so many different cultures have some version of the two-spirit, the queer, the homosexual, the trans, they have a version of this. When we talk about the is it the Bazi boys? The Bazi, I can't remember. Anyway, so they have a version. The indigenous cultures have this. And so I say, when we talk about this as a global issue that involves gender identity in other cultures, we make the connection, even though we can acknowledge that on a cultural level, they are not exactly the same, but they're similar. You said two-spirit is not LGBT. Are we not supposed to make that connection? Not connecting them as exactly the same, but just as a version of the same issues. So what I am saying is, I know that your version, your two-spirit is not going to mean exactly the same thing as the two-spirit in Africa, as the two-spirit in Australia. I know it's not going to mean the exact same thing, and what role they play in the culture. How is two-spirit not aligned with trans? I don't understand, but that's not for me to say. They are the Mahu. Mahu is more Hawaiian. Mahu is that's what they're named for trans. There are two spirit trans men. So right. So right. They are allowed to define what two spirit means in their culture. And so it's going to look different than the two spirit in Hawaii, and the two spirit in Africa, the two spirit in the rest of the stuff. Straight identifying two spirit male body people, I mean. So yes, there is variations that are going to happen. But when we're talking about the nuance of the LGBT community, I'm gonna make that connection. Now you can tell me that it's different. Yes, because culturally it's gonna be the hejra is not gonna be the same as the transgender person in Houston, not Houston, in the United States. So yes, here in the United States, we comfortably call them transgender, and some people don't even fuck with that word. Transsexual, trans, all that. So that's okay. But when we go in South Asia, there's gonna be when they may not call themselves trans. They may not call themselves transgender. They may not call themselves that, but they call themselves something that is similar to that. That is similar to all of these things. Let me see. I get it, which is why it's a translation or a loosely translated. Yes, MJ. MJ, we here. Hello, Diamond. Hello, everyone. Hello. There's a large trans community in Australia. Just saw the documentary. Yes, there's tons of Aboriginal trans people, and that's another thing in America, because we are connected to the American empire, just like I pointed out with Black people, just like I pointed out with Native people, because the trans people in America, what happens with us affects what happens outside of the globe. When we have conversations, you don't know how many times when Monica Robert passed away, how many trans people hit me up and said, Monica writing about your case, Monica writing about this case, Monica writing because y'all know Monica is one of the first people to write back early in the early 90s about when I sued my fucking high school. She was one of the first people to write about it, because I came out in 95. She came out in 94. So of course she's seen, and she was in Louisville, Kentucky. So she was one of the first people to talk about it. And so this girl in Africa said, because she had wrote about my case, that inspired her to buck up against the system in her country, in Kenya, and sue the government to be able to get her ID marker change. And so what we do here in America affects what other people do in other countries when it comes to transness, because of our privilege when it comes to being in America and the freedoms that we have. Yes, are we oppressed? Absolutely. But we are not oppressed as some people in other countries. And so that gives us a certain level of privilege when we are comparing ourselves to them. Okay. And so what I told her many, many times, I'm like, if you ever listen to me, if you ever listen to me at any point in time that you said you was listening to my videos a lot, one thing that I have always emphasized is that if you are trying to be in solidarity with people that are oppressed with you, sometimes you are going to have to examine your own privilege, even if you are oppressed, because sometimes you are not as oppressed as somebody else. When we look at white women, we know that their gender oppresses them, but we know that their whiteness privileges them. When we look at Black men, we know that their Blackness oppresses them, but their maleness privileges them. Like, so when you are trying to be in solidarity, white woman, with Black women, you got to understand that. If you are trying to be in solidarity with Black women, Black man, you have to understand that your position in that dichotomy, that paradigm that you are in, because that is going to affect your relationship with us. Period. Gay men, you got to understand, because you're a cisgender gay man, yes, your gayness is going to privilege you. Absolutely. But it's not going is not going to it's going to oppress, it get you oppressed by the straight people, but you not being trans is going to privilege you. Oh, I'm not one of them freaks. Oh, I can accept. I done heard tons of straight people talking about, oh, I can accept you just being gay. Whole change your gender shit. So yes, there are going to be people that's like, all of us, fuck all of y'all motherfuckers. But there's going to be some people that's going to accept you more because you're just a gay person than accepting trans people. And so you're going to be privileged in that way. And so what I try to explain to her is, don't be heteronormative. Why are biological females not welcome here? Tell me. Huh? Who said that they weren't welcome here? There are tons of biological females that come on my page and watch and watch my show. What are you talking about? Y'all just be saying shit. Yeah. All you gotta do is go back to my other videos. There's tons of cisgender women that come and talk on here. And no, don't do that, Nicole, because that's not true either. Not all cis women are jealous of trans women. And that kind of stuff. Y'all gotta stop that. That's silly. That's weird. Yeah, Alicia, don't cis women are here. Cis women be here talking. You can talk, honey. You can chat. If you want to join the conversation, as long as you're not being disrespectful to trans people. Child. That's weirdo shit. Honey, I'm never gonna be jealous or hating on cisgender women, baby. Ever. I got too many cisgender women friends that I love, that respect me, and we have great friendships. That's just what it is. I think the divisive comments are weird and off topic. Read the room. We're happy over here. Yes, honey. Stop being weird, y'all. It's not that serious. And that's from both sides. Like, don't be weird. And don't let people bait you into bullshit. Anyway, so I was telling Yue, I think she doesn't understand that you don't get to own. To make a long story short, I done talked about it enough. You don't get to own the English language. There are other people that translate it into Two-Spirit. You're not the person that owns Two-Spirit. Now, I can admit that in America, if we're talking about somebody in America and you say Two-Spirit, I'm going to think they're connected to Native. I'm not going to think that if we're talking about somebody in Africa. No. But if an indigenous person in Africa, if I'm talking about Two-Spirit, I'm going to think about something totally different. But when I'm in America, yes, I'm going to think about, if you say you Two-Spirit or you Two-Spirit, I'm going to be thinking, because I don't identify with Two-Spirit. Two-Spirit to me in American culture is Native American. I get it. I get the connotation. And I'm going to assume that you have some kind of connection to Native. But I don't think Two-Spirit is exclusive to Native American. I know that there are people in other Native lands, in other indigenous lands that use the translation Two-Spirit. So she's trying to ask me. She's asking me. She had posted on her page. If you go to her page, she posted on her page that she is asking me, Marsha's Plate, for reparations. She said reparations. The irony of a Native woman asking me for reparations when Native people own slaves. We didn't own y'all. We never owned y'all. And y'all actually got in cahoots when we talk about, this book right here. I've been here all the while. Black Freedom on Native Land. This book really lays out what happened in Indian Territory when they were trying to get land back from the white people. And they got in bed, basically got in cahoots with native with white people, and white people said, okay, well, we'll give you some land and we give you some of our slaves and you should be fine. This is your reparations. And they said, sure. So not only did you get in bed with white people to oppress us, you threw us under the bus. So the idea, I'm a descendant of slave. It's no question. It's no question about what I'm not some biracial person, or I know I'm light, but both of my parents come from slave plantations in Mississippi. Both of them. Both lines come from slave plantations in Mississippi and North Carolina and Oklahoma. So easily I could be from the descendant. I'm gonna try to go back sometimes within the next 2 days to go and look at where my people in Oklahoma, what names they came from, because this book and I just read a documentary talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it named the families that was owned by the slaves, that was owned by the natives. So I want to see if I'm connected to that name. But anyway, as a descendant of a slave, without question, the fact that you own our people, and you asking me for reparations, when reparations is a word that Black people made to talk about giving us what we are owed. Them white motherfuckers paying the debt that they owe us for slavery, that y'all have co-opted to get y'all land back. I'm not saying that y'all don't want to get y'all land back, that they don't owe y'all the land. This ain't they motherfucking land. Yes, y'all should be getting reparation, getting land, Y'all should be all of that. But but the fact that you are even using reparations, that's a word that my people created. That's a word that my people created. That you're using against me? You think I owe you reparations for saying that African? I want y'all to understand what she's saying. I owe her reparations for. I owe her reparations for making a video with my 72-year-old priestess of the Yoruba tradition. For saying that African indigenous people translated their language to Two-Spirit. This is what I said. And I'm saying that you don't own the translation. I'm not saying that you don't own the history of Two-Spirit in your culture. I'm not saying that what happened in the 90s with that group of Native American leaders didn't happen. I'm not saying that stuff didn't happen. I'm not saying it's not important to your history and your story. I'm not saying you don't own your words. What I'm saying is you don't own the translation. And you are saying that I owe you an apology and reparations? Bitch, what? The only reparations you gonna get from me is my dick in your mouth. And as long as you've been on my dick for the years that you've been asking me for advice, and I have been coaching you out of your fucking anti-Blackness, and clearly I didn't coach you enough. And if you've been watching me long enough, you should know that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just don't be talking out my ass. If I don't know something, I say I don't know it. Look, be grateful. Be happy, be grateful was saying some shit I didn't know. If I don't know, bitch, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write that shit down and go see. If I don't know, I'm gonna say I don't know. That's why I'm intelligent. Because if I don't know, I'm gonna sit and listen and learn. I'm gonna make some statements. I'm just a studious bitch. I'm gonna learn. That's how I feel like I got my intelligence, because I'm open to listen to people. I'm not a bitch that's gonna think I know every single fucking thing. That's why in the past, that's why I got the proof. I got the screenshots. That's why in the past, I when you were right, when you said that's not how you use totem, I immediately said, damn, you right. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for teaching me. I didn't know that. I didn't give you any kind of resistance. I immediately said, thank you. Thank you. I understand that. I understand that now. That's important. That's important context. I appreciate you telling me that. I'll make the adjustment. Those exact words. But this situation, you're wrong, baby. This situation, you are wrong. And the fact that you are making, this is what she did, y'all. So she came to me 2 times in February when the video went up. We went back and forth on Twitter. If you search, oh God, it's so, her name is so fucking long. It's one of them native words. And it's long, so I don't know how to I don't know exactly how to just say it. But if you go to her page on Twitter, the first argument was public. And I say exactly what I'm saying here now. And then we agree to disagree. She comes back in my inbox. That was February, like the end of February. She comes, well, early March, maybe like March 1st, March 5th, somewhere early March, around when you pay rent. Then she comes to me again. She's still on my friends list. She's still talking, still liking stuff, still commenting. She hits me up June 1st and have the conversation. And I asked her, what's the point of this conversation? Because that we didn't get to last time, because you're bringing it up to me again. And I'm trying to understand, we said everything we needed to say back then. So why are you coming to me again months later? Where that's March, April, May, June, 3 months later. You coming 3 months later. Okay. All right. If you just want to share your history, great. Share your history. And so she shares that 90s story. I already knew that. I know. I already read about that. I already read multiple accounts of the meeting in Canada. I've already read it because I'm a studious ass bitch that looks into transgender stuff. So Two Spirit, I wanted to hear the history. I already knew about this. You know, I'm older than you. So most of the stuff that you regurgitating to me, I already learned it from even the women that you look up to in the native culture. I have talked to them. The people that you are learning from, I have learned from. I have read their work. I have followed them. So that there's that. And so you're not teaching me anything. So if you just want to tell me again, great, cool. And so I told her, baby, we never going to agree that you own an English translation. We're never going to agree on that. I don't care what you say. You don't own an English translation. And you're not about to tell me that indigenous Africans don't translate their words into meaning certain things in English that means dual spirit, twin spirit, all that kind of shit. I know they do. They told me. So after we have the second conversation in June, okay? After we have the second conversation in June, at the end of the conversation, she says, oh, well, I tried to come to you and tell you and see maybe you was having a bad day back in February, but I see that you are adamant about keeping this ideal. So I will yield. And I want you to take my episode with me down on Marsha's Plate, the episode that I'm a guest. I want you to take that down because your stance on this doesn't agree with mine and it's anti-native and anti-two spirit. So I want you to take it down. And I can no longer support you. I put the thumbs up and I say, will do. At the time, I was at the grocery store. She was bothering me during my grocery shopping. I was at the grocery store, so I wasn't home to be able to take it down. And she takes me to, I go home. When I get home, I immediately take it down. Because it's, to me, if you don't want to be on my platform, I can just take you down. Like it doesn't harm me. And so because I feel like we can still disagree, or we can stop being friends and be cordial. I'm not gonna be like, oh bitch, you agreed to be on the show and you said it. They can tell you agreed to be on the show. I don't need to take it down. Take me to court. What, girl? That's stupid. I'm just gonna take you down. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna keep you up against your will on my platform. So I took her down off any kind of post I shared about her, any picture of her, any of her things. Because this is another thing. The internet shit is how I make money. So to promote something, I charge people for promotion. There would be shit she would send me that I would just post just because she's my friend. I took every single thing down of her. I took pictures. I took the episode down. I took everything down. This was March. This was June the 1st. So that was June the 1st. Recently, y'all know we done upgraded. Marsha's Plate just got some badass new pictures. We just upgraded our visual, our promo. We got some fire ass new pictures. And we've been getting featured on shit. Let me see if I can show y'all our new pictures. Ooh. Oh, let me read her post to y'all. Just so y'all know the context of what she has said. She says, in the midst of ongoing colonization and missionization in the Americas, a group of brave Native trans people from the various tribes gathered in. She says, all I ever did was try to educate and stand up for the Two-Spirit community. But the more I rationalize, the more I know that I'm excusing this type of behavior. I admire my and the work that they do, so it's only fair that I call them in when they harm my community. So this is her calling in. In the midst of ongoing colonization, she posts our picture. Now, great. You want to call us out. And now, mind you, you done posted. Now, you done asked me to take you down, but now you done posted us up on your shit. So I'm about to re-upload her episode of her sharing of her anti-blackness in our on our platform in her culture. So I'm going to share that since you want to play. A group of I saw the IG ad today, just further enforcing the glow up. Yes. So in the midst of all this ongoing colonization, Native people for various tribes gathered in 1990. It wasn't various, it was a couple, but it wasn't all of them. They were tired of academia wrongfully categorizing us Native people who were gender diverse and had sacred roles in our tribe as sodomites, cross-dressers, homosexuals, and birdash, which had various sexual and negative connotation. I shared with y'all that earlier. The people gathered and through consensus created Two-Spirit. And she capitalized the T, capitalized the S. So making this official. All right. It's not. So what I'm talking about is the lowercase t and the lowercase s. Two-Spirit. That translation in English happens all over the indigenous globe. I want to make that clear too. In the era of rampant killing of Native, gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, and intersex people that created Two-Spirit, Black trans women are being murdered more than Native trans folks. Anyway, in an era of rampant killing of Native trans people, they created Two-Spirit. In an era of rampant defunding of tribal programs, absolutely happened. They playing games, wear they ass out, and I support you. U.S. and Canada government created Two-Spirit. In the era of rampant homophobia and transphobia, they created Two-Spirit. Two-Spirit is not a LGBTIA plus acronym. Non-natives cannot use Two-Spirit because Two-Spirit is only to be identified with by Native people who created the term. Only natives can use Two-Spirit. Only Black natives and Afro-Indigenous people can use Two-Spirit. Hey. Hey, Vanessa, how are you? Um, Only Latinx people with Native ancestry can use Two Spirit. Only Pacific Islanders with Native ancestry can use Two Spirit. Only people with Native American ancestry can use Two Spirit. Now she's capitalizing, and that I think that makes a difference. Marsha Play, I have worked with you in the past and have known you since your creation. You do wonderful work for the Black trans community as well as other communities. Now that I am not invalidating any accomplished and continued effort you are doing to make the world a safer place for QT BIPOC folks. However, on episode 173 of your podcast, you suddenly decided that Two Spirit was not a native term, that Two Spirit belonged to every indigenous tribe around the world. So I will say once again, while we're right here, what I say is they don't own the translation. They can say whatever they want to be called. They can say, I want to be called Two Spirit because that bird ass shit, those other words that you use are not right. Call me Two Spirit. And they deserve that respect. But what I am saying is that other indigenous people also use the translation Two Spirit to describe words or gender diverse people. Okay. When we spoke, you also said that you were in contact and knew indigenous African people who use the word Two Spirit in their culture, but would not say which tribe or who they were. I literally, in the video you are, in the episode that you are saying, 173, there is literally a 35-year vet priestess in the tradition that I was talking about. Like literally in the video, the woman is there. So you're asking me about specifics when she is sitting right here agreeing with me. And so this is the passive aggressive. Please read my statements in the kind and generous voice you know me to be. You are not kind. You are anti-Black. That's why I shared with y'all earlier how she has an anti-Black tone and has always had it. But I felt that she was changing because she was young and grew up. There's a lot of motherfuckers who are non-Black that grew up in this fucking white supremacist culture, this anti-Black culture that has some problematic shit that they got to grow from. And I have befriended some of them and they have grown. So you were one of the people that I thought was growing. I have no call or reason to cancel them. I only ask for an apology, reparations, amends, and hopefully a new understanding and reconnection. Thank you, dear readers and potential allies. You also stated that this is a common knowledge or popular in the Americas, native homeland, does not matter globally. So therefore, hey, Diamond, I love the border print on your shirt. You look great. I remember your episode of Marsha Play, and she mentioned being on Tangoland, which is Louisiana, speaking to you. Hey. Yes. Um, yes, I love this shirt. This actually is a dress. If y'all want to see it. Hey. Very country. I love it. So you also stated that what is common knowledge and popular in the Americas, native homeland, does not matter globally. So therefore, it was great to hear her talk about reclaiming indigenous identity, but it's hurtful to hear her be so anti-Black. It really is. It really is. Therefore, Two Spirit can be globally used. This came as a shock to me, is that I had worked with you in previous podcasts. Now, since taking down at my request, right? now since taken down at my request, in educating your listeners on what Two-Spirit is. In that, I have explicitly stated that Two-Spirit is native and to be used by native people and people with native ancestry only. When episode 73 came out, I listened and felt concerned. In addition, a few of our mutual reached out to me concerned as well. I contacted you. What's crazy is you're lying. They didn't reach out to you. They didn't. You're lying. But okay. Because they would have why would they reach out to you and not reach out to me? If they're my mutual friends. All these other groups are anti-Black. What else is new? I contacted you twice to re-educate. The first time I was met with disrespect. I didn't disrespect her at all. She was being sarcastic, and you being sarcastic with me, I'm gonna be sarcastic right back to you. Bitch, fuck out of here. The first time I was met with disrespect, let it go, because I wasn't for sure if you was in a right headspace to have the conversation. We are human and we all make mistakes. Bitch, ain't no mistake being made. And that's the problem. You think you are right, and that's okay for you to think you're right, but I think I'm right too. And so we just disagree. I don't think you own the translation. Period. And that's what it is. And I just think it's ironic that you would ask a Black trans woman, a descendant of slave, for reparations. And like I said, you can get reparations. The only reparations you can get from me is sucking my dick. That's it. Open wide. Let me hit the dangly thing in the back of your throat. That's all the reparations you can get from me. And you definitely not getting no apologies, bitch. You ain't getting shit. You can get busting your mouth for real, for real. That's really where I'm at now. I tried to be nice the first couple of times, but where I'm at now, I want to kind of bash you. That's what I want to do. Because now it's going too far. Now it's getting racist. Now it's getting extra racist. And now it's getting, you're like a narcissist. You're trying to make it seem like you have been this nice person to me, and you came all nicely. No, that's not how you came at all. You've been acting funny ever since you've been acting funny to me ever since they killed that motherfucking Two-Spirit girl on Lovecraft Country. And I still like the show, and you was expecting me not to like the show. And then she was saying on her Facebook page that anybody who likes that show after that is anti-native. What, bitch? Get out of here. This is a show. There's tons of shows that I've seen some anti-Black shit happening, and I still like the show. Bitch, get out of here. You sound stupid. And so you didn't like the depiction. You didn't like the Native American person being killed. I totally get it. Like, I didn't say you had a problem. I didn't say you had an issue with that. I didn't say I had an issue with you thinking that. I think you had a legitimate. You should say it. Yes, I even shared it because I think that you were making good points. I think we have a reason to critique art and shows and movies, and you had a legitimate reason. So yeah, but that don't mean I don't like the show. Sorry. And she had been acting funny ever since then. So ever since then, she has been being real extra, and now she's getting super extra. And so now she's posting on her page that, and and that's what it is. That's the drama that's happened on Instagram. But anyway, yes, check out this book. I've Been Here All the While by Elena E. Roberts. This talks about how this is a descendant of one of the slaves that the Native Americans owned when they got into bed with the white people and was owning Black people. So when we talk about when you bringing up reparations, make sure you're bringing up reparations for Black people. Journey Smollett deserves better. Yes. She wasn't the only one who felt that way. Lovecraft Country caught a lot of shit for that, and they should. And you can critique shows. It's just like Pose catching a lot of shit for colorism and how they are depicting, how they depicted Candy and Electra. Electra being the villain in the first episode, first season, and then Candy dying. They had some colorism issues, and that was a good critique. All right, so I'm done talking about that bitch. She can let her know. She's blocked, so I blocked her. I blocked her in June. The first natives were African dark skin. Nah, I don't believe that. I believe what I do believe. This is what I believe based on my reading and you know the science that I've read about how people got over here. So there was years ago, there were people that was coming from, of course, everybody come from Africa, but there were people who came over genetically. They traced it genetically that came over to the Americas from like Asia, and they started to, you know, inhabit the land of the Americas, right? People in Africa started to travel to the Americas even before Columbus. If you go back and read Columbus's letters to Spain, because Columbus was traveling to the Americas for Spain. It wasn't for like Britain, motherfuckers. It was for Spain. So he traveled over here for Spain, and in his letters to the queen, to the monarchy that who hired him to do the work that he was supposed to do to expand, in his letters, in some of his writing, he told them that the natives that he found there before they started wearing them out, the natives that he found there, they had like metals, like different kind of metals, and some of their arrows had different metals, and they had asked them like, where did y'all get this stuff from? And they said they got it from the Black people in the East that came and sold it to them. So Black people were already trading with Native Americans coming over. We see and so that's why the Seminoles, if you look up Native American, the Seminoles, SEM, however you spell it, Seminole. Yes, Seminole. The Seminole tribe in Florida. If you look at them, they're they're dark. And one of the reasons why they dark is because those are the people that the Africans was coming in contact with. You know who else is dark? The Fijis, the Native American, the native indigenous people of Fiji. They were dark too. They had afros and shit. So anyway, so they were already coming over here. The Africans were already coming over here. But I think that the lands, because of the history of colonization, the education that we get and the stories that dominates the accounts are going to be leaning European. So we got to hear tidbits from the settlers who was coming colonizing. So we're just now coming up with science to prove certain things. Science to prove some of the artifacts were from Africa. Some science to prove that some of their line came from Asia, which Africans came to Asia and then went to fucking through the top and down to the Americas. It's not that like they done proved this. This ain't somebody just saying it. And a lot of people are $5 Indians, not the real. Yeah, it's native. They don't like to be called Indians. They are Native Americans. But yeah, it's I just don't understand. This is why I be like, no new friends. I'm trying to I opened up in my 30s to try to be cool with more people. But I'm to that point, like I'm like, child. But yes, pick up this book. Oh, also, and I done showed this book a million times. This also has a lot of history in it too. Sex, Love, and Race, Crossing Boundaries in North American History. So of course they're gonna have some Native American stuff in there that y'all could. What I love this book. This book is so good, so good, so good. This is the book that taught me about Frances Thompson, the trans woman that was raped and assaulted with her roommate Lucy Smith in 1866, and she testified against the white men that raped them in Congress. And then later on in her life, they locked her up and forced her to prove if she was a woman. And once they found out that she was not a cisgender girl, that she was trans, they put her in prison and she died in prison. Very annoying, but trans woman, 1866. Also, Toni Morrison, one of Toni Morrison's first anthologies, kinda. This is what I guess. The Black Book. It has so much information and different, like, not souvenirs, but like inventions that Black people had. Um, Inventions that Black people created, like their drafts and sketches of it. It is so much information, different patents, US patents that Black people put into the works that white people stole. So many things. It has so much information, songs, all kind of different cultural references. Letters to people, like there's this letter in here from Frederick Douglass to when they were trying to invest in sending people back to Africa. And Frederick Douglass was like, nah, you motherfuckers owe us more than that. Nah, but in his Frederick Douglassy way, not the hood way that I just said it. So he was like, nah, you motherfuckers owe us more than that. We don't know the motherfuckers in Africa. Y'all done took us and this is our home now. Different voodoo charm, just old school voodoo spells and charms are in here. So much. It's so good. It's called The Black Book. It actually went out of print, but because she had passed away recently, they put it back out in print. The Black Book, so good, so good, so good, so good. Yeah, what else I got over here in my books? But yes, blacks are part of the tribe of Israel. People are not from Africa; they are from Jerusalem and Israel. All right, we don't. The hoteps have come into the room. They have come into the space, darling, sweetie. Egypt is in Africa. I'm like, oh, okay, okay. Thank you for sharing, sir. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, thank you for sharing, darling. We appreciate your insight to the conversation. Yeah. Oh Lord. Don't block her yet, Brandon. You be going fast. Don't get her that fast. Um yes, darling. Great. You are a trans woman wanna be great. Let's get you on your hormones. Let's get you if you want to be on hormones, let's I have a episode called New Transitioners that gives tips on people who wants to transition. I have a video of me actually taking my hormone shot years ago. You can watch that. It's tons of information, a plethora, 12 years. 12 years of, information on how to do your thing. Dr. Umar Johnson has joined the chat. Yeah, darling, we not gonna do that here, sweetie poo, sweetie cakes. We know that I don't sometimes people be acting like Egypt is not Africa. It's Africa. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Egypt. I have watched many of your videos, and I don't remember if ever seeing the Moan ones. I would like to. Yes, I have a video of me taking my hormone shot. I got curly hair. I don't know the exact name of it, but I got curly hair. But yes, there are Egypt is in Africa. There are Middle Eastern countries like Israel. Those places, those are of technically in Asia, technically. But they're right next to Egypt. They're right there next to Africa. But yes, all that is all in that same general vicinity. I don't really know why we need to make the distinction because the borders that we see today, as we are learning with Palestine, the borders that we see today are not what was going on back in them days. Excuse me. When people don't know you, they just meet you. They always think you're a troll. I don't think you're a troll. I just think you're coming in saying things that are kind of weird. You're saying black people are Israel people are not are the Israelites that you're talking about, the black Israelites. There are black people who are from Africa. And there are some black people that are some honey black Israelites. Black people are everywhere. So for you to say that there are no black not in Africa, um blacks are a part of the tribe of Israel people and are not from Africa. That is just a false statement. And so that's weird. It's weird to say that. It's very hotepi. It's very it's just weird. It's just not true. So I understand that, and because saying stuff like that when you talk about Israelites and that kind of stuff, that falls in that kind of vein of hotepery. Um, it falls in that lane, and so when somebody says you sound like Umar Johnson, it's kind of like a tongue in cheek way to say you in your hotep bag, you in your like your last name is Bey, Bay or some shit like you on some whole other Ma'at shit. You in another vein. You in that kind of Pan African vein. But that's not what I fuck with. So um, you can have the beliefs that you want, but I know that black people are on all lands. I'm an M to F trans woman wannabe, and I want surgeries to become post op. Yeah. Do you listen to Jade and XD podcast, Diamond? I have never listened to their podcast, but I am a subscriber to XD's YouTube, and I watch him. I might have listened to one episode, but I think the episode that I listened to was kind of boring, so I didn't watch it. But but I love XD. Like I watch his videos on YouTube, but podcasting. I don't it doesn't he podcast with a cis girl? And so I don't know. I feel like not that I can't listen to multiple ones, but I feel like I get enough of that gay man cis girl combination with the Reed with Kid Fury and Crystal. Mm. Brandon, that comment about me being wannabe was for branding. Okay, but do you think about them canceling Pose Auntie? What do you think about them canceling Pose Auntie? I don't think I heard a comment about that. They didn't cancel Pose. They didn't go past third season. I don't think they canceled it. I just think they just didn't want to do past third season. But I don't know. I could have used one more season. I didn't want to do. I didn't want it to be. I didn't want it to be one of them shows that went on and on and on. But I could have used one more season. A spinoff or nothing though. No. No. I want the girls to go do other stuff. I want the girls to go do other stuff. I want them to work on other things. But I think Pose has run its course. I want them to do other things. I want them to go off and do more projects. Uh, yes, MJ got an Emmy nod. Yes, that's so good. Um, I yeah, I want them to do. I want. I don't want Pose to be the only trans thing. I want other shit. I want more storytelling. I want something else. I want a I want a trans romantic comedy with a new actress. I want I want I don't know. I want a trans man character somewhere. Like a permanent character, not just a guest starring role, a guest role. Like a trans man's permanent character. I want that. I want just more. I want more things. I would love to have a trans man, trans woman romantic comedy. I think that would be fucking cool. Some bad bitches: Sydney Starr, Monroe Borndorf, um, Felicity Noir, Maddie. Yeah, I love those girls. Oh well, not Sydney. I don't love her. I don't hate Sydney, but I don't. I don't. She's. But I love Felicity Noir and I love Maddie. I don't know Monroe that well. I know her. I know she's from the UK, but I don't know her that well. Um, y'all should ask Ravino on here about me. She is more familiar with me and can tell you about me. Hmm. I just think that there are so much depth that could gone into the concept. I like what they did. I'm not disappointed in Pose. I'm not really disappointed. I could have taken one more. I felt like the last third season was kind of rushed. So I could have taken one more season. We can get more. I would love to explore Blanca's dating life. I would love relationship to be more explored, but now that it's over, I want it to be explored somewhere else. I want whatever that fucking whatever that show. Y'all know recently there was a movie that was supposed to be based. It was trans women played by cisgender women. I do want a movie like that, but I want it to be trans women playing it. Where thank you, thank you, thank you. True, it's easy to be pigeonholed into the same storyline actors. Yeah, there's so much nuance. Honey, these motherfuckers would give me the credit, but motherfuckers, y'all could take some of my honey, love beneath stories and put them in something. Honey, make sure you give me the credit. And I want to write some of it. But I put the stories in. There's so many stories. There's so many stories of girls out here, not just mine, but any, I think there's so many stories that's more. I don't want the story just to be revolved around AIDS. I don't want it. I don't mind a story revolving around sex work, but I want it to be more honest. I don't want it to be just woe is me. I'm a sex worker. I'm surviving. I'm just doing this to survive. I want some new eyes. I know some motherfuckers that are doing it because it's a fucking $1 million industry. Look at Madison. Um, I know some people who do it because they like to have sex, which I like to fuck, and I like to get paid. I don't want it. I don't. There's so many stories. Um, yeah, I just want to. I just want to see it. um, oh, we had 3 hours, child. Right before. Right, but even like trajectory beyond sex work too. We have DR lawyers, etc. shows it well. Y'all know what? Y'all know I don't like it to go real long, so I'm gonna cut it off and then come back because I don't mind get on. I'm gonna give me some water and come back. Are y'all? Y'all ready to start a new one, or is it too late? Make sure y'all thumbs up if you're watching. All right. me see. Let me see. All right. So yes, I'll end it. Make sure y'all thumbs up. I'm not sleepy. I went to sleep and took a nap. I'll come back. Y'all know she gonna change too. You know I'm gonna change. Cause that's my business.